Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of 60 Apostille minutes. So glad to have you back. As you know, we don't spend a lot of time on intros because we want to give you the benefit of the entire hour. So I'm just saying, welcome to experts, Teresa Schaefer, Amy Seitz, Eileen Bonner, Lori Ham, Dolores Fickinger, Kim Aguilera, Melissa Garner. So we've got the same crew that we had the last time. So happy that you're here. And whenever you are all ready, we are going to start with the first question. Oh, I guess I should have said, you're going to put your questions in the chat. They will be forwarded to me. And we have a question. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm gonna fix this. Amy, can you do me a favor and take over for a second while I fix this? I paid extra money for Zoom to have 500 and they didn't do it.
Yeah, I just got a message that
Okay, I'm gonna do it
Judy's
right
trying to
now.
get in.
Amy, will you be me for a minute?
Sure. Hello, everybody. As we get that settled and taken care of, it's good to see you all. I know we talk on the other, but we don't get to see our faces on Clubhouse, right? So wonderful. I guess, is there a question already? Is someone able to send it to me, or?
Anthony, can you send it to Amy?
Excellent. I think our first
I
question.
did. Okay. How to handle a non-Hague apostille?
I think that's
How about Melissa? You got a quick answer for that one?
Quick answer. Sorry, I've got some people that are messaging me about not being able to get in. So obviously, it kind of depends on the document. Florida is not yet a state that allows for doing or processing certain federal documents. But typically, again, document dependent, it would go to your local Secretary of State. Usually, or at least in Florida, they give a notarial certificate, and then from there it would need to go to the U.S. Department of State up in DC. And then really it would depend on your client, what their needs are, the country, as to whether or not after that it would need to go to the embassy.
Wonderful. Lots of steps in that one, huh? Anyone else have anything they want to add to it?
Okay.
There's good news on the U.S. Department of State. They've updated the website and it now says only 4 weeks processing time. So that's exciting.
Absolutely.
Very exciting. Okay. Do you got the questions now, Judy? Or you want me to read the next one?
Take the next one and then it'll come back to me.
Okay. So we actually have 2 questions that are the same kind of topic. They want to know, how should they be marketing to get clients for apostille work?
I can take that and I can tell you that you have to market the same way for apostille work that you do for all of your work. You have the solution to a problem. And the problem is, where am I going to go and how am I going to get it done? If you're in the city, then look around. Do you have hospitals around you? Do you have colleges around you? Do you have pharmaceutical companies around you? If you're in a rural area, you may have it better than all of us because you may have no competition. So look what's around you. Join some groups. If you're lucky enough to find, an Asian group or a Korean group, join your groups and make sure that you tell them what you know how to do and how you can do it and what your timeline is, and you will get, there's enough work out there for everyone. Anybody else have anything to add? Where's Melissa?
I'm here.
Okay, do you have anything to add with that one?
Not really. The only thing is like your international, international attorneys. That would be another,
Right.
possibility. Sometimes even translation companies, that's another possibility. So, but yeah, it's marketing yourself very much like you have to do with like your notary work.
I can add something to that.
Okay.
I would say when you do have a client and it was a great experience, ask them to spread the word. Referrals are amazing and they're probably the best source. So you can be prepared to have like a flyer that you can just easily copy paste into a text message because people just seem to, and you could always tell them, hey, save it to your photos. And word of mouth goes a long way.
And I think the next question is, what suggestions do you have? I'm in a rural area. If I lived in a rural area, I would go knocking on doors. I would go to the hospital. I would go to the college. I would go to places and I would be knocking on the door with my business card in hand and perhaps a flyer. And I would say, this is me. I can do this. I have a way that I can get them done quickly and professionally. And I would knock on every door I could find because chances are in a real rural area, you won't have the kind of competition that perhaps I have or Melissa has, because where we are, there's a zillion apostille agents. But if you're in your own little neck of the woods, you may not have as many people competing for that kind of work.
Hey,
Anybody?
Judy, can I add on to that a little bit? So
Sure.
while I was down in Florida, I went around and we were driving back and forth to various places. We would stop in at like funeral homes and I took in my capability statement and I was down in the middle of Florida. And in order to get an apostille done, they have to go to Tallahassee. So I went in, I said, I know you're not going to need this very often. So what all I'm here today is to tell you when you need it, I'm here for you. And I leave them the information. I don't give them a huge sales pitch. And I walked away and they were very impressed with that.
That's exactly what I would do. I do it in the city too. I mean, I do it all the time. Anybody that walks in, I have a brick and mortar office. Anybody that walks in here, if I say to them that what do you do? And they say, well, I, I'm a secretary for the IRS. I jump on them. I say, oh, who does your notaries? Here, take a stack of cards. It doesn't hurt. I think it was Star that once said, anybody you meet anywhere, anytime, it doesn't hurt to tell them I'm a notary. And lots of times, and you could back me up on this, lots of times when you tell them a notary, what they say is, oh, last week I was looking all over for a notary and I couldn't find one. And then you hand them a card and say, well, you found one now. And with apostilles, it's even different because a lot of people don't do them. So when they come in here and they see it and they say, what's an apostille? And you tell them, 90% of them say, oh, my aunt or my uncle or my cousin was just looking for one of them last month. And then you just very sweetly say, well, next month, if somebody's looking for one, here's the place to look. Okay, Dolores just told me we're out of time. So Anthony, I'll take the next. How do you do a capability statement? I'm not sure what a capability statement is. Is that like a notary authentication that it authenticates that you're really a notary?
No, it's more like a business resume. So you put everything on a piece of paper and you talk about all of the different aspects that you can do. And you just basically make this flyer. It looks like a resume and you can hand it out and it gives them all the details. Now mine is more on online virtual notarization, yada, yada, yada. But you can do it for any of them. All businesses can have it. You can talk about your professional
Okay.
expertise, your education, your skill set.
What's the difference between a capability statement and a resume?
A resume is about you, an individual. A capability statement is about you, the business.
Okay, so it's a resume for your business.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Because we'll go to the next question, Anthony. I actually have a question if you'll allow me to ask a question. The last time we were here, we had a discussion on India and embossing versus signing every page. And I've gotten at least 25 phone calls asking me about that. And I want to go to Lori Ham because Lori Ham told us without doubt, no, 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 no. And so a lot of people said, well, I get calls for that all the time. And they said, what do I tell them? So Lori, that's my question to you.
Mm. Timing is everything here because just last week I was working with people from India and they wanted stamped on every page.
Right.
I told them absolutely not.
Right.
Then I had a request from a customer from Hungary, and they wanted a foil seal on the apostille. And because I was talking to Melissa Ford from the Permanent Bureau yesterday, I ran it past her again. I thought, let's go all the way up the food chain. Absolutely not. You do not modify your notarization. You do not modify the apostille, nothing. You follow statute 100%. And if you're getting pushback from the customer, ask them for who is, giving that instruction to you. Melissa said she will have her people at the Permanent Bureau reach out to the receiving entities in those countries and make sure that they know that that is actually an illegal request. They don't
Okay.
call it that, but
I want clarification.
we can't modify it.
Lori, clarify one thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, even embossing every page, we shouldn't do that either. We should just do a notary.
Okay, that's going to depend on your state law a little bit.
Okay.
A lot of state laws don't have specific prohibitions on affixing your stamp to
Okay.
individual pages. Some states do. In Montana, it's very clear, for example, that you cannot affix your stamp or your signature without a full notarial certificate, which means that the page has to be signed as well then too. So, but that's dependent on your state law,
Okay.
but don't change it just for the customer request.
Okay. I think, Melissa, your state allows you to do that. Am I right?
We are allowed to use our embossers, yes, in conjunction with our normal required commission stamp. We are not allowed to use it in place of, as far as the notarization goes. So we can use it, yes, but not to replace a notarization. So that has generally been my practice, is that I will use my embosser, but I will not use my normal required commission stamp.
Got it. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? Because I have received a lot of questions since our last time about, what happens because, okay, I'm going to add in California. Can I include an embossed stamp and also add my regular stamp? Eileen.
Yeah, on your notarization page, you can absolutely do that. But we cannot do an embosser on all the other pages, right?
Right.
It's only for the notarial certificate.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Right. We get that request all the time, but they come in with instructions that say, you have to sign every page, and they get a little irritated and angry when you say, I can't do that. And, so if it would be great if Melissa could reach out to some of the powers that be, like specifically in India, and let them know that they can't give people those instructions because they're asking us to do something that we can't do.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I have seen those instructions. I mean, it clearly
Yeah.
says on their end. And so that's where they're feeling like they don't want their application that they're applying for to get rejected. So that's why they're so forceful with us. We need to stamp every page. And they've shown it to me, you know, they've underlined it, circled it, highlighted
Absolutely.
it.
And it was the
Yeah.
same, and I've said this before in every room I've ever been in. It's the exact same thing as an I-9 verification, because they come in and they say you need to sign it and stamp it. And even when you show them, if you turn around to the computer and you show them the thing that says a notary is not permitted to affix a stamp or seal on an I-9 verification, they say, but this is what it says. This is what the directions from my boss or the hiring party or whatever. So, I mean, it's the same thing, and you can't always follow the directions they bring into you. You have to know your notary laws. And if you have a problem with your notary laws, then you've got to look it up for your specific state and find out what you are and are not allowed to do.
This is where you guys need to be the expert. Know what you can do and
Right.
just flat out say no when no is the answer,
You know,
because this is where, one person does it, then the next person thinks they can ask for something else, and it snowballs. So, you guys doing this as a business, a professional, you know what you can do, and you just have to adamantly stand by the no when it's appropriate.
and can I
And
say,
when you can,
no, go ahead, Lori.
if you can do something like Eileen with the embosser or whatever, that's fine. Go ahead and do what you can do, but draw the line in, hard line that you won't cross. And then they'll learn to back off.
And I want to say that everybody's looking to make money. And when somebody's there and they have a nice big job for you and you're going to have to do something that's wrong, I encourage you to do two things. The first thing I encourage you to do is think about the oath you took about integrity. And integrity is what we're all about. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you lose that $100 or $125, you'll get it with the next client. It's just that it doesn't feel like that sometimes. Sometimes you feel like, oh, well, I really would like to have that money. Well, my friend Patricia, and I'm sure she's here somewhere, always says there's good money and there's not good money. And doing something wrong is not good money. So those are the two things. I know Dolores said my time was up, so we'll go on to the next question. Anthony? Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm looking for the next question. I'm new to the thought of doing apostille work. Exactly what do apostilles do? Sorry if this is a redundant question, but I want to take the class and I need to make sure about this work. Apostilles are, they allow documents to be used in a foreign country. The processes, the rules, and regulations allow you to do this job correctly so that you won't be sending your documents to the secretaries of state and getting them rejected. So here, I want to say that your notary skills become important. You have to have some good notary skills because apostilles require a notary to know that it needs an acknowledgement or it needs a certificate or it needs something, or you didn't seal it, stamp it, date it, and if any of you are signing agents, then that's the same thing, because the first few times you went out with your package of documents, and then you got that call the next day, hey, you forgot to sign page 400, got to go back and get it signed. Well, it's the same thing. The SOS will return it to you with a sheet and say, you forgot to sign page 40. You forgot to sign. I think, Lori, you said one time that 54% of the rejections are for notary or notarization skills or notarization
Notary errors,
errors. Right,
absolutely.
right.
You know, yeah, improper certificates and, mostly signing and stamping or, leaving off stuff. So, but the first step is always to make sure the notarization is correct. And that's where they fall down fast.
And as to notarization, as to apostille, I know a really good person who teaches that course. And if you would like to be in touch with me, I'm not here to sell anything, but if you would like to be in touch with me after this course, I will be happy to talk to you about this really nice course that I know about. So we're going to go on to the next question. Does the federal government only authenticate a non-Hague birth? Does the federal government only authenticate a non-Hague birth authenticate that has a translation, or do they only authenticate the birth certificate, and why not the translation? Okay, I'm not sure I'm going to answer this right. I think what you're asking is, if you have a non-Hague document, does it need translation? In what I do is I ask the client to find out from the recipient party, does it require translation? I don't make that decision for the client. I ask them. I think we talked about this before. Eileen, do you ask the client first? Like, does your recipient party need translation?
Yes, I do, especially when I've had experience in the past for that particular country where I know they usually want it. But I ask the client,
Me
absolutely.
too. Anybody else, Melissa?
Yeah, I always put it on the client to make that determination or to tell me that's what they need or want, just simply because, as I tell so many people, if I tell you that you need it and you find out that you don't, well, then you're going to be mad at me for giving you misinformation. And then if I tell you that you don't need it and you find out that you do, then you're also going to be mad at me for not giving you the correct information. So I generally will put that responsibility on the client to let me know if they need it or not.
And I will add right here that every state or a lot of states are different in that, for example, in Pennsylvania, the English document and the translation have to be two separate apostilles. They will not do them together. But there are other states that they will do them together. We did call every state, and we do have a documentation of what the states want, but I hesitate to give it out because it changes so quickly. And that's something that I think you should check your state guidelines. In Pennsylvania, for a long time, they did it as one. And then I got my job rejected. And when I called up there and I said, what happened? They said, we don't do that anymore. So I think you should check your state guidelines to make sure, do you have to send it up under one as one, or does it have to be two? And by the way, some of the states that we contacted said, it's up to you. So that's not helpful, but it's a fact. Colorado said, just send us what you got and we'll look at it and we'll get back to you and let you know how to do it. So that in itself could take you, Lori's shaking her head, that could take you a week by the time they get it and they get back to you and they tell you what to do. But it is important, because if you send it up as one and they wanted it as two, then they will reject your job. What's Montana, Lori? Is it one or two?
Well, you can't apostille the apostille. So I guess I kind of got lost on this. The apostille stands as its own entity. If somebody needs a translation of it, they can do that, but we don't apostille that.
But a lot of them want it both. They want the English and the Spanish. They want them both apostille.
Okay.
So think like
Of
divorce
the
papers.
document. of the
Yeah,
underlying document, sure. Yeah, we'll do whatever they send us on that. If they send us a certified copy of a translation where it has, this translation has been notarized, then we'll apostille that. If it has not been notarized, we just staple it to the underlying document. And because remember, the apostille certifies the signature of the notarial officer, doesn't certify the document.
Right.
So
That
it's got to
doesn't
have a
value.
notarization on it before we can apostille it.
Okay, we'll take the next question. If document needs translation, me as a facilitator, how do I get that translated? You use a translation, a translator or a translation company, but make sure whoever you use is a certified translator so that they can put what is called a certificate of authenticity on the translation. So if a person comes into you and says, my aunt or my uncle translated this, chances are the Secretary of State will reject it. They want and I guess I see the validity in that, because like I could do a translation and say that document said anything I want it to say. So at least with a certificate of authenticity, they know that it was a person that could authenticate what the document really says. Anybody?
Can I add to that?
Sure.
Yeah, so in my experience, yes, so two things I keep in mind. I'm in Texas, so sometimes, well, not all the time. I always make sure that when somebody's requesting they even have a translated document already done, that it needs to be notarized in the state of Texas. In order for me to if I don't know, for me quickly work on that apostille. So if it's done in California, then that document is now, and this document is now has to be going to California in order for the Secretary of State in California to apostille that document. So that's one thing that I also make sure. And then another thing is sometimes they just get the certificate, a translation will come in, they have that certificate of translation done, but that certificate is also, there's not a statement, a notarized statement from the translator. So
Right.
therefore, there is nothing for any Secretary of State to notarize if that translation has not been notarized. So just make sure that there's some layers there.
Kim, can't you have, we have 1 minute, can't you have the client sign that translation and notarize the client's signature?
Notarize, can't
Yeah,
I repeat?
so if you got a translation back from a client and you had the client write a statement on the back and say this is a true and correct copy of a translation of my whatever, and they sign it, then you could notarize their signature. You wouldn't be notarizing the translation. You would be notarizing the client and their statement. Lori, that's good, right?
You can, I've had that scenario that has been rejected from Texas, because they actually want to see the original document, and then they do a comparison and they do their spot checking, regardless of what the language is. So that doesn't always fly depending on who's going to be issuing that apostille behind that desk, in Texas at least.
Okay. Lori, if that came into you, would you apostille it if there was a statement on the back of the translation signed by the client that said this is a true and correct copy of the translation of my birth certificate?
Yeah, probably. Except remember, if they're sending you the original translation with the wet signature of the translator on it, then it's not a copy certification. It's a true and correct. It is the original, and the customer can do that. They can say, I certify this to be the original certification of that. Just make sure that the statement accurately reflects what
Right.
they're sending in. But
Right.
yeah, we could do that.
Right.
Whether it flies again, because again, it's whether at the end of the day the receiving country is accepting that. you know.
Amy, when you do these things with virtually, Ron, how do you handle if they give you an English document and a Spanish document? Would you, Ron, would you virtually notarize the translation with that statement on it?
So with Ron, we're always doing copy certification by document custodian because there's no way for me to get my hands on the original copy. And as an Ohio notary, I can't do copy certification of a document. It's not a legal notarial act for me. So I would do copy certification by document custodian, which the client will detail what the document is and sign a statement that they or swear it's or they verify it's an exact copy and that I'm notarizing their signature. In this instance, I would probably just ask them, do you want me to do 2 or 1? And I would always err on the side of 2 because, you know, that typically would be what I think they would want. So,
Right. Okay, let's take the next question. I'm interested in adding apostille work to my notary service. I've never processed an apostille, but I've been researching the process for a while. I have a question regarding contacting an embassy. How easy or hard is that? It's very easy or it's very difficult. I will tell you, there's no middle of the road. It's very easy or it's very difficult. Egypt is very difficult, but there's other embassies that make it very simple for you. I do think that you have to do your research on that specific embassy. You have to know how much they charge. Some of them want a cashier's check. They won't take anything else. Some of them want an extra copy and they will send it back if you don't have the extra copy. So I am here to say that that can be very difficult, and take copious notes. So for example, if you do it and everything goes smoothly, and it's the Egyptian embassy, then take copious notes. Where you sent it, how you sent it, how you sent the money. Did they want an extra copy? Did anything go wrong that you next time would make it go right? Start a folder. Make sure you take really good notes so that the next time you can breeze in and get it done. That's my sage advice on all these countries. You know, when China wasn't a member of the Hague, they had a form, and it 5 years ago, the form had to be in all capital letters, and it had to be typed on a typewriter, and the client had to sign it. Okay, then it changed, and they didn't have to have all capital letters, and then it was online. But it was just great if when the client came in, you had that form and you knew that they had to sign that form, and then you knew that they took your business check. Just take good notes. You'll be the best apostille facilitator. You'll be better than anybody if you just take good notes, because you're going to do it again. Melissa, can you back me up here?
Absolutely. Because sometimes it just seems like things can change, but you know, things can go really, really smooth, or things can go really, really difficult.
Right.
And yeah, so if you make notes on what you did and how you were able to get it done or facilitate it, if everything goes well, then obviously that's what you're going to want to repeat in the future.
Right.
And then that way too, you're not having to spend your time going back and researching,
Right.
you know, a specific, you know, embassy. So Cuba, for instance, you know, they want a money order, but it can only be from the post office. It cannot be a standard money order from Publix or whatnot. So, you know, so make a note of that. And then, you know, next time somebody comes to you with something that needs to go to Cuba, well, then you can already have your notes out and you can sound very knowledgeable. And obviously that's going to put that trust and confidence in that client for you.
And that makes you the expert. When you say to the client, let me tell you, this has to be a money order and it can't be this and it has to be that, or like Egypt only takes a cashier's check. They won't take a money order. So it's saving time, it's saving money, and it's saving rejection. All right, we'll take the next question, Anthony. Can apostille work be completed via a RON platform? Absolutely. But you have to make sure that your Secretary of State will accept it through a RON platform. Mine will. Pennsylvania will. Many of them now will, but that is something you have to check. Amy, how many of them will, or just an idea? Half of them will?
Oh, I think it's about half, but it's funny to note that Virginia, being the first state to enact RON, won't allow a RON for an apostille. So, you know, it isn't even most of the newer states will, but see, Virginia won't. Who else won't? There was another one. It starts with an M, but I can't remember if it was like Minnesota or something like that. But yeah,
Delaware.
yeah. So
Yeah,
Ohio will, Florida does.
Texas
So-
does.
Hmm.
Lori's raising her hand. Go ahead. Montana will.
Yeah, Montana
That's
does.
for
Yeah.
sure. Right. Next question. Does New York accept RON for apostilles?
I don't know off the top of my head.
My answer is I don't think so, but I'm not sure. Anybody that is in the audience that wants to come up, I don't think so, because correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, they just started doing RON, what, a year ago?
It's been about a year, and
About
then
a
they
year?
changed. Well, they had their temporary orders out, and then they enacted the full-blown RON. So I think it's been a little longer than a year.
Okay.
But I know that New York's administration is still learning. And yeah, and I don't know that they know how to validate a RON document was done correctly.
I mean, up until recently, New York didn't accept a copy certification, because I used to get people that took the train here to get their copy certification. So that's the answer. I'll take the next question. Anthony, are all signatures in apostille authentication are supposed to be in the middle of the page? Are all signatures in apostille authentication are supposed to be in the middle of the page? I don't think so. I mean, they should be. Are you talking about if a document has to be notarized, it has to be notarized wherever the signature is, whether it's the middle of the page? I don't know I'm not exactly sure. So would the person who wrote that question just rewrite the question with a little more clarity for us so we can answer it? Okay, Anthony, I'll take the next question. Do you have a template of which fields to market for apostille services? I don't have a template, but I would say hospitals, schools, pharmaceutical companies. I would say any place where there are minority groups that like, I know someone in New York who happened to be invited to speak to a group of Korean people. And as a result of that, he does like hundreds of FBI background checks. It just worked out for him because of that one contact that he made. So I would say that you have to think about who's going to use documents in a foreign country. Pharmaceutical companies are certainly going to do that because they usually have patents all over the world. Melissa, Amy, somebody, Eileen?
Amy said funeral homes earlier, and that's actually
Absolutely.
a very
Funeral
good
homes,
one.
yeah. The only problem with funeral homes is they usually need things real quick. Like
Mhm.
they usually need them like today. But sometimes not. We've
Sometimes
done some good work for people that are transporting a body to a foreign country. And yeah, that's a great, you know what else is good? Check cashing companies. Because a lot of check cashing companies, people go in there and then they say to them, where am I going to find a notary? And so if they have your card, they might send those people directly to you. I think you have to be creative. You have to think about it. Adoption agencies are great.
Weddings,
Weddings,
destination weddings,
Mhm.
destination weddings are great.
visa,
Judy,
immigration, that's
Yeah,
all personal side, and
Re-
then, go ahead.
reach out to your paralegal association in your state. The lawyers they don't know, but the paralegals do.
Yeah,
I just made a presentation a couple of weeks ago to the Montana Paralegal Association, and they're going, oh God, didn't realize how we did that. You know, it doesn't come up a whole lot with all the law firms, but again, just if they know you're there when they do need it, they'll reach out.
and don't just go door to door to businesses. Look at business events in your area that are local to you. You'll be able to get a lot more exposure going and mixing and mingling with them when they're more comfortable in a fun setting versus you just cold calling, walking up and knocking on their door. If you go on Facebook and go local events near me, I did that when I was in Montana, and I went to a small business support group. I went to a job fair. I did all of that stuff. So connect in person, but don't always think about just cold calling.
I think that you have to be creative and try to think of things that other people might not think about. But also word of mouth. Word of mouth is amazing. And when you do a good job for people, they don't hesitate to recommend you. When you do a good job for someone and you get the job done right and you get it done on time, you get it delivered on time, people don't hesitate to recommend you. And then think about this. Why would someone go looking around for someone when they already had someone that did a good job? So that goes back into good notary skills, and also don't promise someone something that you can't deliver. If they come in your office or they meet you or they call you and they say, I need this by 3 o'clock tomorrow, and you can't get that done, then you're better off to say, I cannot do that. And I wish I could. Maybe give them to somebody who can. Maybe give them to somebody who is 10 minutes from the Secretary of State. And you know what? You won't lose anything because they'll get the job done and they'll remember you and they'll remember. I know when somebody says to me, I wish I could help you. I really do, but I can't because it's just impossible for me to get that job to Harrisburg and back by tomorrow at 3 o'clock. They thank you for your honesty because a lot of companies will promise them the moon and then they can't deliver. And then bingo, you've lost a client. Anybody, Kim?
Well, Judy, she had put the
I
times
wanna,
up on that one.
Oh,
oh,
Kim,
time's
time's
up.
up. I'm sorry. Let me
I
have the
agree with
next
you, though.
question. No, let Kim answer it. Go ahead. We can be a minute.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did receive a phone call just 2 weeks ago. And somebody said, well, I definitely can't make the timeline, but I think Kim can. And I was able, noon the next day, their documents was on DHL, already headed overseas. So I was able to do it, but I think that's a great comment to make.
Good.
Bona
All right, I'm
fide.
going to read this. Family travels a lot for husband work, and I recently suffered multiple injuries, multiple surgeries that required me to stay home. So can I become an apostille? Well, in many states, need to help family back to financial recovery in case of more emergencies and need to afford food. Here's what I would say to you. God bless you. I hope that you're better soon. My thoughts would be with you on that. But here's what I would say. Hook up with an apostille agent near you. And while you're home, you be the one that makes the phone calls. You be the one that tries to get the leads, generate the leads. You be the one, I don't know what state you're in, but you be the one that's calling up schools and hospitals and all kinds of stuff. And then the person that can be out there doing the work, partner with that person and make sure that you get your financial remuneration for helping. Does anybody agree with that? Does that sound right to you? Partner it up, because you can't go out and deliver the jobs, and you can't go out and pick up the jobs, and you can't take them to the Secretary of State. But there's somebody near you that would really love to have you marketing, 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 and just be sure of who the person is, be sure of their honesty, and maybe have a code so that if you contact XYZ company and they start to use this partnership, if you will, that everything that comes in from ABC or CDE or whatever it is, so that you have a track. Don't work for nothing is what I'm saying. Anybody?
I want to say yes. Yes, you can absolutely do that. Another thing you can do is there's a lot of groups to say, like, is there a notary in this area, and work with that notary to get that document apostilled and coordinate the shipping. Like, to create a shipping label, is a blessing that you could do remotely. So, do that, have the documents go to wherever it needs to go, and it's going to be harder, right? I also had somebody from Florida contact me, work with notary here in Texas. That person in Texas sent the documents over to me. You have to wait for there's a trail, but make sure you're organized, right? Make sure you have your spreadsheet to know exactly where this document is. If you can't find that person that you can coordinate with.
Now, the other thing you can do is become a Ron. Become Amy, take that one. Take that route for this person.
All right. So the downside with starting from scratch when you're already stuck in the position that you're in is that you've got to invest money into marketing and time into marketing. It's not going to happen overnight, whether you do apostille or if you do Ron. But it definitely is something you can do. And I wasn't in a medical situation like that, but in January of 21, I said, I'm going 100% remote. I don't do anything in person. I didn't even reorder my stamp when I expired. I do not have a physical stamp anymore because I don't do those. But I was able to get a good, okay, so I was spending about $600 a week in expenses, but I was bringing in a gross of $2,000 a week in 7 weeks. You've got to know it, have confidence, and have the right charisma when you're talking to people in order to sell it, whatever it is you decide to do.
And you could also hook up with a courier and coordinate jobs with couriers. There's a million things, but you're gonna have to be creative on that, and be careful and make sure that the person you're working with is going to have your best interest at heart, as well as their own. Okay, we'll take the next question, Anthony. Okay, well, I don't see a question. So why don't we each kind of give a little bit, wait a second. How do I become a courier in California? We have a company, we have a database, and that database is apostilledirectusa.com. I will put it in the chat. And if you sign up, you've got one of the best couriers in California right here, Eileen Bonner. maybe talk to Eileen and see what areas she covers and what areas she thinks need coverage. That I would definitely, California is what, 67 counties?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. Definitely
I mean,
huge.
it's so
We
huge.
only have two places. You have LA and Sacramento for Secretary of State offices. They are
But
doing,
wouldn't they have to, wouldn't they have to send them from, like, aren't some of the counties much farther away than others?
absolutely.
So like, where do you
Absolutely.
get the bulk of your work from?
It's all over, Judy,
Okay.
really. It's all over.
Okay,
But definitely, I would say most of the courier work is for someone that is more than 1 hour away from a Secretary of State's office. So
Okay.
LA, 1 hour out, Sacramento, 1 hour, 1.5 hours out. But there's so many cities, it's huge. There's so many transactions that happen every single day.
yeah.
And notaries and networking with notaries is your best bet, because they're out there serving the public, meeting people, notarizing their documents, and many of them do not do the apostille work. So they can connect with you and say, can you handle it?
And a lot of couriers have told me that, oh, Patricia Langford just texted me, 58 counties in California. And a lot of couriers have told me that they've learned a lot from being a courier, that they've learned a lot from handling the documents. Dolores, you feel like that, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. It's incredible what you can learn just by looking at the documents and paging through those. And then when they go to the Secretary of State, just chatting with the ladies in there. It's a whole wealth of information. It's incredible. I highly recommend it.
And I know that other notaries have told me that it's a real learning experience, and that you see it, you feel it, you touch it, and you also go to the Secretary of State's office and you make kind of friends with them. And and I know in my Secretary of State's office, they'll make little allowances for us, than they might for some other people, because they see our work 2 or 3 times a week. And so I think that, they're if I short them $5, they'll send me a sticky and say, next week, send me a check for $5. Because they know us and they know we're coming back. I think that's different than somebody who just goes there every once in a while. Do you feel like that, Eileen?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And Melissa too. Melissa's at the Secretary of State every day, all the time. Every time I talk to her.
Yeah, my home away from home, or my extended family. So yeah. Yeah, so sometimes, and then I try to look at documents myself almost always, but I'm completely transparent that honestly, there's some times where I'm literally so busy that I just don't always get to. But yeah, there's things that they look for with the notarial statement that, if somebody forgot to check the physical presence or online notarization, which you would obviously be able to tell that by the signature, but they still require it to be indicated. And so I will still sometimes get my work back, and, with a little sticky note in there, just they make sure to have the box checked. Or I've even, honestly, I've had them come back, and I don't know if maybe they just didn't catch it, but I remember one client specifically that had 4, and she signed one notarial statement and forgot to sign the other 3, and they still did the apostille. Everything else was there, her stamp and all the other information, but her signature. So they did it. I was surprised, but yeah.
Yep. So, and other couriers have told me that, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but they've told me that, there should be like 2 prices, because sometimes they get work where it really needs to be all redone. And that's more work than just getting documents that you can walk right up to the Secretary of State. Couriers, Kim? Is that a fact?
So they do have some common courtesy, for couriers. I would say that there's some documents that I would say if it was mailed in, I've had to point out like, no, this is the statement. And I'm able to be an advocate for the said document. Because, sometimes they're like, oh, I would not have even have caught that. They see so many documents and the line is like growing. And they're hungry, right? They have to eat lunch. It could just not be their day. And I could just easily point out, and say like, there it is. And then they'll even give a correction, like, hey, next time, can you make sure that that statement is like moved down in like a white space? And yeah, absolutely. So I communicate that, to my clients, like when they're going to send something in. And also I'm learning like every single day. There's people in line getting rejected. And I'm able to say like, why'd that get rejected? I can help you, or yeah, educate people that way. So definitely I'm learning, and definitely they do give common courtesy for familiar faces.
I've heard Lori say many times how much people in Secretary of State offices do not want the rejections. It's a lot of work. Am I correct, Lori?
Absolutely. We want to get them done as much as you do.
Right.
And if if you are doing the apostilles and the courier service or something, getting to know the people who work and establishing that relationship, it's the trust. And, if we know, okay, I know this is going to be taken care of by, I'll go ahead and stretch the elastic a little bit, and I'll do the apostille on the basis of knowing that you're going to get that document corrected. If, something really minor, or if I know you and all of a sudden you've got a real emergency kind of situation and you call and you say, hey, I really need this done like 2 days ago, I, I'll work with you. That
Right.
we all want to do a good job. And certainly getting to know the people that you're working with always creates a relationship that pays benefits. So,
And I want to say that I thought the questions were great today. I think that everyone that's here is serious about wanting to do a good job. I think that no one would be sitting here for a little more than an hour on a beautiful Sunday afternoon if you weren't serious. And so for that, I have to say over 200 people, that's really a good thing. That's really an excellent thing. And it's really heartwarming to know that a lot of people just care how much they're going to learn. And I really hope that you all walked away with something today that you didn't know before you came here. I hope that if it's only one thing, then it's only one thing. But I hope that you all walked away with something today that you didn't know before you came here. So I want to know, did you like it? And should we do it again in maybe July? And I'm going to use Amy's thing. If you liked it and you think we should do it again in July, and we should have more questions and answer more questions and make you learn better, put a 1 in the chat. And if we see lots of 1s, then we're back in July. So Amy, that's your thing. Tell them what to do.
But well, actually, honestly, I think they ought to go to your Facebook page and comment that they want another one,
I think
so that
that's
we
a good
see
idea too.
activity, because
But
we can't see
let's
the
see some
chat.
1s in the chat. Let's
but
see some 1s in the chat. Come on.
Maybe you can
Everybody,
see the chat. I can't see the chat,
I can
Judi.
see the
So
chat. So far, I haven't seen 1.
Yeah, they're pouring in. We got a lot of ones.
Oh, they're pouring in. We got a lot of 1s. So I think we do it in July, and we'll pick a date and we'll let you all know. And hopefully Anthony will help us again because he keeps everything running nice and smooth. And I have to say that I'm really happy that so many people want the knowledge and want to ask the questions and want to do the right thing. And I think that that's so important. And anybody up here would like to say a word, an outro, we call them. Kim, would you like to do an outro?
Just thank you so much for your time today. I think this was an amazing experience. I see some familiar faces on the chat. So yeah, I work on Texas Secretary of State Courier Services, and I'm on the Judy's platform. So definitely, if you need a courier, I highly suggest that you use that platform. And it's what's the name of it, Judy? I keep forgetting, but
Friends of Apostilles and Notaries.
and on the website.
I just got a one from Larry Levin on my text. Larry
It's
Levin just sent a one. He couldn't
But I
put
would
it in
say
the
use
chat.
that.
He had to
Use-
send it in my text. So I think we invite
Perfect.
Larry maybe next time to talk to us about his journey, how he became such a good apostille person.
That's
So,
awesome.
all
and
right.
her
Thank you,
website's
Judy.
Apostille Direct USA.
Yes, that's it. Apostille Direct USA. I've used it myself for courier services, and I'm on there too. So thank you, Judy, for allowing me to be on your panel too.
I hope you'll come back in July. And Melissa?
Well, yep, always enjoy participating in events with you. And I can say that I've worked or looked up to you for a very long time, and that's actually where I got started. So you were definitely my springboard, and I'm just so thankful that, I've taken what I've learned to be able to build the business that I have. But I am in Tallahassee, Florida, so yes, like Judi said, I'm at the Secretary of State every single day, and they know me very, very well. It's a business that I've grown to love, and just participating in events like this is very critical to being able to advance your knowledge in this business industry.
Melissa, while everybody is here, we have a group that not a lot of you know about. And that group is called Talk About It Thursday. We affectionately call it TATE, Talk About It Thursday. And we do the same thing there that we just did here. We entertain all your questions. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is show up at usually 4:05, because I'm usually 5 minutes late. Full transparency. Melissa, will you put the link in there?
Let me grab it.
And we always look forward to as many of you as you can joining us for Tate. We're trying to compete with TNT, you see? So we want to get 100 people in to Tate. Dolores is our timekeeper. She and Anthony together keep us straight. Dolores, do you want to say anything?
I'm trying to figure it out.
No, thank you. I mean, this is
Are you
awesome.
coming back in
I
July? That's
really
all I want to
enjoy
know.
all the questions and hearing everything. So I'm still learning as well. I will be forever learning, and I appreciate all of you and your input.
Hi. And Lori Ham, that's the one, as I said earlier this morning, and you'll hear the interview, she's so busy and she does so many things, and yet never, ever won't take a call from a notary to try and help them out. And that to me is just, I hope that I learned that from you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for including me on this and all of your endeavors. So
Will
good
you
luck
come
to
back? Will you
everybody,
come
and
back
I
in
am
July? I'm putting you on
available.
the spot. Will you come back in July?
No.
Yeah, I can do
course.
July.
Eileen.
Okay.
Eileen?
Yes. It was a great opportunity today. Love the questions, and anyone interested in, expanding their business, I would highly recommend you get some training. That's it. If you really, really want to do it, you've got to understand the process, understand the documents, and you've got to be an excellent notary, because there are so many notary mistakes that happen. I witnessed them at the Secretary of State. So just if you're interested in doing it, I say 2 thumbs up. It's been amazing to add that to my business. And if you want to test it out, take one of your documents that you have of vital records and submit it for an apostille. And then you'll know how easy it is. It's not that hard. And you'll learn the steps that way too, if you want to test it out before you dive all the way in. So if anyone needs any help in California, I'm here. And thanks, Judy. I love always being here.
Excuse me,
And we
Judy.
love you, Eileen. Amy, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I just am glad everyone joined in. It was lively. It was some really great questions. And the last thought I have is I hope that you take something. I'm going to use one of Judy's words, not just listen to it today, but turn around and implement it tomorrow, because it doesn't do any one of you any good to listen, and not actually do it. So there you go. We'll see you again in July, right?
And Teresa, you want to say anything?
It's amazing. You know.
Yes, this is a great event. It's always a pleasure to be part of these, and I always learn something every time I'm here, and this is just a great bunch of gals here to work with.
All right.
See you in
And
July.
I am going to put apostilles, and our Facebook group is Friends of Apostilles and Notaries.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is our Facebook group. And of course, we would not be mad at you at all if you go in there and say
Yeah.
how much you enjoyed today. We promise not to be mad at you at all. If you
Oh, yeah.
just go in there and put a little thing in there and say it was good and that you learned a lot, because that's the way more people will come when we put this out for July. So, promise. Maybe Amy might be mad at you, but I won't. So everybody, thanks again. I hope you have the rest of, even if you're in California, it's pretty early for you. So you still have most of your day. And thank you, and we will see you in July. Bye, everyone.